Okay, this is Phil McNally with ArtSpeak, and we are down into that segment I call Artist to Artist, where artists talk to other artists. And today we have a little group that is a little different than normal. We haven't got into some other types of art. We've only covered just a few of the basics as far as artists who paint and things like that. But today, uh, we've got somebody in store for you. We have Jacobi Creations, and they're two photographers, a husband and wife team, Ben and Ashley, and they photograph. So we're going to go a little bit in a different direction here, and we're going to start talking about photography, which is something that I've always been interested in and like it, and just haven't got all my shutters right, and that's kind of my problem. But I'll figure that one out. But let's grab these people and bring them in. Ben, Ashley, appreciate you coming on board.
All right, thank you very much, Phil, for the invitation.
Yes, thank you so much, Phil.
No problems. Like I said, I want to do things that are a little bit different, and photography was one in my back head, and to say, hey, well, let's try to see what we can do. So let's talk a little bit about your business and what you guys do. So usually the best way to start on these things is kind of like, who are you? Where you from, where you at, and what you doing? So I'm gonna put this in your lap and let's see what we can come up. So go ahead and start up.
You want to start?
Okay, no, you can start.
Okay, I'll start.
That's so a husband and wife team, definitely.
Yeah. So we are a husband and wife photography team, and we are both from this area, North Texas, and our business is basically on three pillars. We want to inspire people to get outside. We want to educate about the natural world and the type of art that we do, and then we also want to try to conserve that world through either just sharing the principles that we practice, or also the just different things we can do to keep everything kind of eco-minded and on that conservation side of things.
That's you can't say much more than that, and that's pretty good.
Thank you.
Well, you are in Texas. You are at Wichita Falls, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, and how long you been there?
We were both born here, actually, but he ended up in Iowa Park. So left Wichita Falls, spent some time in Quanah, settled in Iowa Park, and then came back to Wichita Falls. And I sort of did this golden triangle thing from Wichita Falls to Arlington to Longview, back to Denton, and then back to Wichita Falls. So we met here, and actually I came across his name when I moved back, and I bought a camera at Costco right before I left Denton. Transferred up here, I thought, I want to try to find some kind of someone to apprentice under, so I can learn this. I really wanted to learn landscape photography, and someone directed me to the Red River Photography Club, and it was in that group, that Facebook group, actually, that I came across Ben Jacobi's name. It turns out he's the co-president of that club, and I was already familiar with his work, and he is part of the reason why I was so inspired to get out, just get outside. I felt a stirring in me. I knew I needed to leave, city life. I needed to get out and just relax a little, find some nature. And I always thought it was really beautiful, but his pictures sort of led me to that realization that I needed to really find places like that. It turns out they're everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and spend a little time, out. So Wichita Falls definitely it's where we are now. And it's really funny because a lot of people don't think of it as very pretty around here, and they see our pictures and they're like, that's near where you live? What? Wichita Falls? It's horrible. It's ugly. But it just requires, putting some thought and opening up your eyes a little bit, and just realizing that, it's really everywhere, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I grew up in Iowa Park, and we lived in Quanah for a little bit. And while we were in Quanah, we were a little bit more isolated from the city. And I fell in love with the Texas sky. And I don't know if you're familiar with Wyman Meanser. He's the Texas State photographer, and he's actually kind of who inspired me to become a photographer myself. And his emphasis was always on just the big country sky and beautiful sunsets and stars and all that kind of stuff. And I really became fascinated and just fell in love with, you know, that big open sky. You know, I had a big glass door that was leading to our backyard, and I could just sit there and watch the sunset every single night. And I loved it so much.
I think that's what I'm also from Texas. I'm born and raised in Dallas, and I'm just out down the road from Dallas. And those people who don't know where Wichita Falls is, it's a little more north. She said Red River, and so I mean Red River kind of covers between here and Oklahoma,
Right.
and Wichita Falls isn't far from there, so it's a little bit more north of Dallas, kind of more on border like, and in fact, I'm heading out that way in a couple of days. We're going to go up to see Paladero Canyon.
Oh, you will love it.
And those people who don't know what Paladero Canyon is, it's not too far from Wichita Falls, near Amarillo, Texas, and it is. I found that's the second largest canyon in the country. So
Yes.
out of Grand Canyon. So there's back to landscaping. There's a lot of that. Anybody who is not familiar enough with Texas, if you say landscape, it flat and goes forever. So it's like that's kind of where Texas is at, and this is more North Texas that we're talking about here. So it's good to have you guys, and I've been through Wichita Falls, I think once. I actually looked for the falls and couldn't really find it. And those people from other states would say, well, you come to us, you see Yosemite and all these other big falls, Niagara or whatever. And it's like, you know, you don't find that in Wichita. That was elusive.
No, you don't.
These are little bitty ones. So, but photography, yeah, this is something I think most artists actually enjoy, at least viewing. One thing in my life has been that I've always looked at pictures before I read words. I mean, it was always something that I was looking towards photographs. It was and just kept on going throughout the rest of my life. And from an art standpoint, most of my art, and I think a lot of artists' art who paint, reference photos. I mean, it is something that really can really make an art piece something that a lot of artists can't necessarily get, because not all artists are photographers, and we'll get into what your depth of photography is. But a lot of the people who are listening just want to say that, you know, if it wasn't for photography, I think there wouldn't be as many artists, because outside of plein air, which is where you take your art stuff outside and stand it up and then just paint whatever you see landscaping wise, sometimes the photography can overtake that. And especially when it comes to photographers, I have gone through the years, and I have noticed, and I work with, as far as when I do my art, I look for good photography. And there is a difference between somebody just going out there and snapping a picture and a photographer, because it is something they take composition in, they take everything in, the lighting and everything else that goes with it, that makes up that particular scene that they're shooting on. And that is just, that is not something that comes naturally, which a lot of people with cameras nowadays think it does, but it just does not. And I'm saying, I can tell a good photographer from somebody who's just has it as a hobby. And we'll go through a little bit of your website, and it does contain it. So what you said, you do landscapes. So what other photography does Texas offer? I mean, you do just the landscapes or other things like that?
No. So yeah, whenever you live in a place like this that is void of things like huge waterfalls and like Yosemite, you have to get a little bit creative. So again, I have a fascination with the sky, and that actually led into my storm chasing and storm photography, which is a very big thing that I do, each year, try to do. And it's also one of those things that a lot of people don't get to see, especially in other parts of the country. We'll have people that, will see our work from California and they'll be like, oh, it's the most amazing clouds I've ever seen, or up in the Northeast or something like that. And in addition to that, I also do night photography. So I love photographing the night sky. And Ashley just doesn't do landscape. She does a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I do landscape, and I'll do maybe an astro or a shot or two with him. If you can, I like to fall asleep right at dark. There's something about me. I mean, I can wake up at 3:30 in the morning and be ready to go. That's fine. But for whatever reason, the night at the end of the day is not, and I mean that dark is not good. So I like to capture bugs and wildlife, other wildlife. So birds have, it's kind of sneaked up on me. I never planned on becoming a bird photographer, but if you go to any of our trade shows or you look on the website, there's more stuff by Ashley Madden Jacobi that is birds than anything else. And I love the challenge in birds. And I think the reason I like bugs and birds so much is because you have one color in Texas in the winter and the summer, and it's yellow, right? Everything's dead. And yellow's beautiful. It really is. It creates nice backgrounds for different kinds of subjects like bobcats or whatever. But when you have a bug, your depth of field, your possibilities are endless. I can do a slight tilt. There's like one red leaf way back over, whatever. I can adjust my settings and I can create or have more of a red background or something interesting. So it gives me more color options. Like if I were obviously in Portland, I'd have plenty of that. It rains all the time. You have all this life and flowers and everything's beautiful. And they can do that easily there. But here it's not so easy. and everything that I shoot, I like to shoot in its natural habitat, natural environment. So I won't ever go to a studio and put a red, background that way. I don't think it's very polite doing that. And for the same reason, I don't really shoot owls because I don't want to shine bright lights on them. But I do love the wildlife. But I would never say I'm a wildlife photographer, because if you do, you're never going to see anything again. So all of my wildlife encounters, I used to spend so many hours every day out, 4 hours, 6 hours out carrying 20 or 30 pounds, just like whatever would catch my eyes, what I shoot. Totally different method. He has an entirely different structure to how he photographs, which he can share in a minute, because we're day and night different. But I like to go out in nature, and whatever comes across, my scene becomes my subject. It's whatever I feel wants to be photographed or is patient enough to let me do, because I don't want to affect them in any negative way. I try not to. So that's it. And I do love landscape. But I think I love to edit the flower pictures and certain things more. So I have landscape shots from every shoot, but I don't always do anything with them. In fact, 80% of the time they just sit there, and they're probably nice shots. And if I took the time, they'd probably be great, but just not
It's
yet.
not your passion.
Not my passion, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think that goes with what you're saying. I think that goes with most artists. I mean, as far as what they find, I guess, in most cases, at least it was in mine, find what drives you. You could say, okay, you're an artist, you're a painter, you're a photographer. Okay, so what do you paint, and then what do you shoot? And it's like, okay, I just shoot everything and I paint everything, and it's like, no, because you haven't found yourself yet, so you got to keep on looking. You both, I mean, from a Texas standpoint, I'll also agree with you guys, because it is the sunsets here, the cloud formations. I mean, we have just abounding an amount during different seasons that are just so spectacular. Now, other states could say the same thing. In other states, I've seen good photography from cloud formations, but there's something with Texas that it always you could at the right time capture it, and it's just, you won't see this anywhere else. So I can see why California's probably saying, because they got the ocean, you know, we got the
Right.
cloud,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
got the clouds, you know. I mean, that a little bit of difference there, but it is. I mean, they are quite spectacular. I've actually painted several cloud formations that were taken by photography, and just, I guess the difference I see from photography and artistry is I've noticed one thing about the photographers that I've talked to, and I haven't talked to a lot of them, but I've talked to enough to know that they are people with patience. I mean, it is just an inordinate amount of patience that they have in order to get a shot, in order to get a certain kind of a shot. And that is what's bestowed on these people who just have it. And it's like what Ashley's saying. I mean, you don't disturb where they're at, the insects, the bugs, this scenario of wildlife. You want to take it as it is, and the only way to do it, it's almost like hunting but without a gun. You know, you've got a camera, and you've got to wait for the moment. You don't create it. Where in artistry, you just basically, you create it, and when you make a mistake, you go over it and say, wipe that out, let's go back and start going again here. You're not waiting for the moment. You've got the moment basically all the time, and you create the moment. And in photography, it's like you just
I
patient.
heard it once described to me as a painter starts with an empty canvas and adds to it, and a photographer starts with a full canvas and takes away from it.
That's a good saying. I like that one. Yeah, it is, because once you step outside, the world's there. That's it. Which part do you want? You know. Hey, let's do this. Let's talk about your business. Let's talk about Jacobi Creations, and how hard it is, because I've talked on this program before with other artists as far as starting business, getting it going, moving it forward, different ways of doing it. And like I said, this is photography now. And it's like, what is a photographer face from a business standpoint starting up versus what is an artist face? Because I don't know if they're the same. I don't know if they're different, and in what areas they would be. So tell us about you getting started in this business and trying to make it a business.
So I would say it's very similar to artists, especially if you're trying to do like commercial businesses and things like that. They always, you know, they'll say we don't have a budget for it, or we already have artwork, or you know, things like that. You know, we try to emphasize that we're artists more than photographers, because every time you say photographer, somebody asks you to shoot their cousin's wedding, and that's not the kind of photography that we do.
Unless they're out in the nature, then you can say, okay, if you can do it up on the hills, I'll be happy to shoot it for you.
Yeah. Get some points. Yeah,
that's right. But the one thing that we do have that I think is a bigger advantage is that we have the ability to create new works faster. So, you know, if you're a painter and you're doing a 40 by 60, you know, canvas painting, I mean, I'm assuming that takes weeks, you know, to do.
Yeah, could do.
Whereas if, you know, they're like, hey, I want a sunset, you know, of this tree, you know, I just have to go out there and find the good sunset, you know. So that definitely does make it a little bit easier. But I think because everybody has a camera now, the appreciation for photography has dropped dramatically. You know, you know, everybody can take a picture with their phone, and nowadays with like AI technology and, you know, all this kind of stuff, you can generate a beautiful landscape just with the click of a button. You know, you don't have to hike 10 miles to get that location. You know, and so I think that because of that, we push that artistry side of it a little bit more, and we try to go more towards, you know, people that are passionate about what we're passionate about. So people that buy our work aren't people that don't like nature. You know, they like nature and they want more of it. And so, you know, that's what our work conveys.
Mhm. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think AI, from even from the artist side, it's creeping in, and you happen to be in a category though that kind of like a lot of other photographers necessarily aren't. I mean, nature photography. I mean, it is getting with nature, animals, insects, landscapes and things like that. That AI, I'm sorry, I've not seen that from them at this point. And I think also, if from a photography classification, I'll say like wedding photographers. I mean, they just do wedding photographies or baby photography or whatever like that. And it kind of goes down that road. But I think photographers that you're talking about, the phone photographers,
Mhm.
I mean, I I believe AI will definitely outrank those eventually, easily. But going back to what I initially said when we started, it is the master of understanding photography and knowing how to take a photograph, and the creativity behind that will instill much greater attention than I think any AI created image will do. Just to let the audience know, I met these two people at an art fest not far from here where I'm at in Dallas, and they were showing off their display as far as photography, and it caught me. Some of the things that Ashley had done, it just caught me as far as I think it was a hummingbird, that it was just like, okay, I could possibly paint that, but I couldn't capture that in a photograph.
Well, it's funny because that's our hummingbird, our pet Lance.
Mhm.
So it's funny you mentioned him. I love him. He's so cute, and I thought I really wanted to photograph him, and I hadn't at the time photographed any hummingbirds. Really, I mean, I did a practice run the week before at my mom's feeder to see if I could shoot them. I always heard some people make it complicated. You need, some strobe lights. You need, this, you need motion, a trigger. You got to have. That was not shot with that. It was a high shutter speed, but it was like 12/50th of a second, maybe 1600, so 1/1600th of a second. But the early morning sun was just shining right on them, and it was very easy. And of course, I did know some of the wings did blur a little, but I wanted that. That's kind of how I saw him. A little bit of that motion. I felt like it kind of made him more angelic in just a simple way. And once I shot it, I said, well, I don't think I need to do any more of those. I can do some more. And I did. And for fun, I still like to capture him. But yeah, that's what I want to do, with my photographies. I want to evoke emotion, because I mean, I really want to translate how I feel onto a medium so other people can feel the way I felt the moment I took the shot. Because it's changed my life, going outside. And actually right now I'm kind of in this weird creative rut where I'm not going outside like I should. And I know I'm like, I'm not feeling quite right. Maybe I need to go on a hike. But we're working the full-time jobs, and so sometimes it is hard. And but that's why I do it. That's why I do what I do. In the beginning, I wanted to share how I felt with people, like especially at nursing homes and in like administration, buildings and places where people might be stressed out, doctors' offices, blood banks, all those places. And it turns out a lot of my work has actually sold there. So it was the right idea, and that's what I want to do, is calm people down, make them feel happy, and hopefully ignite a passion in them to go back outdoors and to live life in a simpler way. Complicated lives tend to be stressful. So if you can simplify, go outside and spend a few hours, a lot of your problems will just melt away. Lowers blood pressure, lower your blood sugar. You feel happier and you feel connected and rooted in nature. So you're less likely to just destroy it or overuse resources constantly. It's a good way to kind of slow some stuff down. But yeah, I like to share how I feel. So I'm glad that caught your, pull at your heartstrings, caught your attention.
Definitely did. Definitely did. So let's talk about your business, and it's going into the new year. What do you see next year being for you guys as far as coming up with 2024? And
Well, I don't know. Why don't
You
you
don't,
answer
okay,
this?
I guess I'll answer.
Yeah, you answer.
Yeah, so probably our biggest thing is going to be actually offering workshops and classes. So we want to inspire people to get outside, but we also want to maybe foster the next generation of nature photographers. You know, because it made such a dramatic impact on our lives, we know that it can make a dramatic impact on anyone else's life. So if you like, you know, learning how to shoot sunsets or photographing the moon or the night sky, you know, we're hoping to be able to offer workshops close to around this area, this North Texas area, for right now, and hopefully going to be expanding on that eventually. So
yeah, it's amazing because it's I think everything today, especially from a social media side, it's imagery. It's also video, and I'm moving down the video world. In fact, as far as some of that stuff, but it's all with images. So if you do a workshop, are you teaching, or will you be teaching? Um, does it matter the device? I mean, phone or camera? I mean, does it make a difference?
so for the type of photography that I do, there are some limitations that that certain equipment would have. So like your phone, for example. So like if we want to photograph the night sky, you know, we want to learn how to photograph the Milky Way. A lot of phones don't have sensors that are large enough or capable enough to be able to capture the Milky Way in good intricate detail. You know, and part of the reason, you know, is just because of physics itself. You know, a smaller image sensor can't gather as much light as a bigger image sensor. Whereas, you know, whenever you're photographing the night sky, that's what you need. You need as much light as possible. So you're photographing light that's millions of light years away.
Right, right. Yeah, so it does impact. I mean, as
Yes.
far as the type of equipment you got, and how a workshop of yours would probably go forward on. Well, this is Phil McNally with Art Speak, and we're talking with Ben and Ashley Jacobi from Jacobi Creations, and we've had a good time, and we appreciate you guys coming on board, and we'll be in touch with you too.
All right. Thank you so much, Phil.
It's been a pleasure.
You all take care.
You
too.